What if I told you that while most billionaires travel for luxury, the richest Arab heirs travel for power? From private Airbus jets converted into airborne palaces to convoys guarded like royal war rooms, the next generation of Gulf royalty moves through the world in ways no outsider ever sees. Stay until the end, because one Saudi prince's jet isn't just a plane. It secretly houses an art collection worth more than a museum. Mohammed bin Salman, the prince who commands $1 trillion. When Mohammed bin Salman rose to power as Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, he inherited not just a throne, but control of one of the largest financial war chests in modern history. His authority stretches across the Saudi Royal Treasury, the Public Investment Fund, PIFIF, and partial state ownership of Saudi Aramco, the oil titan valued at more than $2 trillion. Combined, these assets form a web of influence worth over $1.4 trillion, a sum that gives MBS more discretionary financial power than any private billionaire alive. But unlike ordinary tycoons, his wealth doesn't come from company shares or personal accounts. It's embedded in a kingdom, flowing through the veins of an empire built on oil, ambition, and absolute control. That control is what separates him from the Musks and Bezoses of the world. Their fortunes rise and fall with the stock market. His wealth moves with policy. As head of the Public Investment Fund, MBS commands a $700 billion sovereign portfolio that extends from Silicon Valley to Tokyo. The PIF owns major stakes in Uber, Lucid Motors, Nintendo, and Disney, quietly positioning Saudi Arabia at the heart of global commerce. Yet every investment carries a deeper intention. $1 billion in Lucid isn't just a bet on electric cars, it's a statement that Saudi Arabia will shape the post-oil era rather than be erased by it. Each acquisition, from tech to real estate, is calibrated to buy not just profit, but prestige and power. Behind the scenes, the Crown Prince's empire operates like a hybrid between a corporation and a kingdom. His network of advisors, economists, engineers, and diplomats forms what insiders call the machine, a team that can greenlight billion-dollar projects in hours. Through them, MBS finances ventures that merge innovation with influence. A $45 billion partnership with Japan's SoftBank Vision Fund cemented Saudi Arabia as a key player in global tech financing, while multi-billion-dollar contracts with Blackstone and BlackRock turned Riyadh into Wall Street's desert counterpart. But his ambition isn't just about profit, it's about rewriting Saudi Arabia's narrative. For decades, the kingdom's identity was tied to crude oil and conservative tradition. MBS wants to replace that image with something audacious. Modernity on a monumental scale. He directs capital into mega projects that blur the line between city planning and science fiction. From Neom's $500 billion desert metropolis to renewable energy ventures and futuristic tourism hubs, each initiative carries his unmistakable signature, a vision that the Arab world can lead the future instead of chasing it. Even the way he manages wealth reflects precision. Aramco's partial public listing in 2019, the largest IPO in history, raised $29 billion, channeling liquidity into diversification rather than personal luxury. For MBS, money is a strategic weapon. It builds alliances with nations, buys equity in industries that will define the next century, and secures Saudi Arabia's influence in a world racing toward digital dominance. At 38, Mohammed bin Salman stands as both monarch and architect, using $1 trillion apparatus not for excess, but to redesign the kingdom's destiny. And while most billionaires measure success in zeros, he measures it in the one thing even they can't buy: power that shapes the planet itself. The Kingdom in Motion, Vision 2030, and Neom. In the heart of the Saudi desert, where sand once stretched endlessly beneath the Red Sea sun, Mohammed bin Salman is building a future that seems pulled from science fiction. It's called Neom, a $500 billion mega project that forms the centerpiece of his sweeping national transformation plan, Vision 2030. But this is no ordinary city. Neom is MBS's boldest declaration that Saudi Arabia will no longer live off oil, it will live off innovation. The project covers nearly 10,000 square miles, roughly the size of Albania, yet every inch of it challenges what a city can be. Neom is designed to run entirely on renewable energy, governed by artificial intelligence and populated by autonomous systems that learn from their residents. Its most ambitious sub-project, The Line, stretches 105 miles in a perfectly straight glass corridor that slices through the desert. There will be no cars, no streets, and no carbon emissions. Only 2 parallel skyscrapers, mirrored from end to end, enclosing an entire vertical city powered by clean energy. Residents will move between districts in under 20 minutes using magnetic levitation trains running beneath the structure, while drones handle logistics above. Every element of Neom is meant to redefine human living. The plan includes Oxagon, an octagon-shaped industrial hub floating on the Red Sea, and Troyena, a mountain resort where artificial snow will blanket luxury villas and ski slopes all year round. Construction contracts worth tens of billions have already been awarded to global firms, from Bechtel to Hyundai Engineering, and the workforce projected to exceed 500,000 employees by 2030 represents the largest single coordinated development effort in the region's history. But Neom isn't just architecture, it's a message. It's MBS's way of telling the world that Saudi Arabia is not trapped in its past. The project aligns with Vision 2030, a national blueprint to diversify the economy, attract foreign investment, and modernize Saudi culture through tourism, technology, and sustainability. The plan projects 100 million annual visitors by 2030, with Neom serving as its crown jewel, drawing investors, creators and innovators who might have once looked only to Silicon Valley or Singapore. To fund such ambition, MBS directs vast resources from the Public Investment Fund, ensuring Neom's financial backbone remains strong despite global volatility. The PIF has committed over $500 billion to infrastructure, renewable energy and smart technology, making the city a real-time testing ground for AI-driven urban governance. Every streetlight, home and transport route will collect and analyze data to predict human needs before they're even expressed. At its core, Neom is less about cities and more about sovereignty. It's a geopolitical statement that the Middle East will define the next era of progress. A place where luxury, sustainability and surveillance converge into one controlled vision of utopia, or what MBS calls the world's most ambitious project. And yet, this is only one chapter of his trillion-dollar transformation, because what comes after Neom might be even bigger. A plan not to build a city, but to build a civilization reborn from sand. Luxury as power, the Crown Prince's personal empire. When Mohammed bin Salman wants silence, he doesn't escape to the desert, he sails through it. His $400 million super yacht Serene glides across the Red Sea like a floating palace forged from oil and ambition. At 439 feet, it's longer than a football field and taller than a 10-story building, fitted with 2 helipads, an onboard submarine, a cinema and an underwater observation lounge that looks directly into the depths of the sea. Yet, among all its treasures, one object turns the yacht into legend. Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, the world's most expensive painting, bought for $450 million and reportedly stored in Serene's climate-controlled gallery. On this vessel, art and power share the same deck, one symbolizing divine creation, the other human control. To the outside world it looks like extravagance, but for MBS, luxury is strategy. Each possession serves as a signal, a quiet reminder that Saudi Arabia no longer merely buys influence, it embodies it. His Boeing 747-400, valued at $300 million, isn't a jet. It's a moving fortress, custom-built for his private use. Its interiors feature marble-lined conference halls, gold-plated bathrooms, a prayer room that orients itself automatically toward Mecca, and a digital command center that connects directly to the royal court. When the plane touches down, it isn't the prince arriving, it's the kingdom itself. On land, his residences mirror this balance of history and futurism. In Riyadh, the crown jewel of his holdings is the Al Yamamah Palace, a sprawling compound exceeding 100,000 square feet, where centuries-old Islamic motifs meet digital infrastructure. Beneath its mosaic floors run fiber-optic cables linked to Saudi Aramco's live operations dashboard and the Neom project's central planning system. allowing MBS to oversee billion-dollar ventures from within his home. In Jeddah, his coastal estate opens directly onto the Red Sea, with imported marble from Carrara, Italy, and a private marina capable of docking destroyer-class vessels for visiting heads of state. Further north, in Al Ula, his desert retreat stands like a mirage among ancient sandstone cliffs. There, at twilight, glass corridors glow against ruins that date back 2,000 years. A deliberate merging of heritage and futurism. Even the smallest details of his lifestyle serve as power projection. His car fleet includes a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Maybach 62, and a convoy of customized Mercedes G-Wagons, each modified with military-grade armor and communication systems. When he travels within the kingdom, his security entourage often uses Augusta Westland AW-139 helicopters, each worth over $20 million, flying in synchronized formation over his motorcade. Every move, every possession is calculated. The yachts, palaces, planes and convoys are not mere indulgences, they are instruments of diplomacy, designed to broadcast Saudi wealth, precision and endurance. For Mohammed bin Salman, luxury isn't an escape from power, it's an extension of it. In a world where image is currency, he has mastered the art of turning grandeur into governance, transforming every reflection of gold and glass into a mirror of authority. Culture and soft power. When Mohammed bin Salman decided to redefine Saudi Arabia's global image, he didn't turn to oil or diplomacy, he turned to sports. In his eyes, football, golf, and even wrestling weren't just games, they were tools of power. Through the Public Investment Fund, MBS began what insiders now call the sports revolution, deploying billions of dollars into global entertainment ventures designed to shift how the world sees his kingdom. The centerpiece of this strategy was his $400 million acquisition of Newcastle United Football Club in 2021. The deal, executed quietly through the pith, was more than an investment. It was symbolism. For decades, the Premier League had represented the pinnacle of Western culture and influence. Now, for the first time, a Saudi sovereign fund owned one of its oldest clubs. Overnight, black and white jerseys became political statements. Fans celebrated, critics debated, but MBS had already achieved what he wanted. Saudi Arabia wasn't just watching the game anymore, it was shaping it. From there, the momentum grew. The Live Golf League, backed by $2 billion in Saudi capital, disrupted an industry that had resisted change for over half a century. The tournament lured some of the world's top golfers with 9-figure contracts and unprecedented prize pools. Purists called it sports washing, but the numbers told another story: record attendance, global viewership in the millions, and a seismic shift in how professional golf is financed. For MBS, it was proof that Saudi money could rewrite even the most established playbooks. Then came entertainment. The PIF's partnership with World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, brought multi-million-dollar events to Jeddah and Riyadh, transforming the country into a global spectacle stage. Stadiums that once hosted political summits now filled with fireworks, celebrity entrances, and chants from crowds spanning every continent. Each event was a statement. Saudi Arabia was no longer a silent player in global pop culture, it was its new arena. The push extended beyond Western imports. MBS poured billions into developing domestic industries, Formula One races in Jeddah, boxing megafights in Diriyah, and esports World Cups designed to attract Gen Z audiences. His goal wasn't just visibility, it was reinvention. By 2024, Riyadh had already hosted events generating over $1 billion in tourism and media revenue, part of his plan to make the capital the entertainment hub of the Middle East. Each investment folds into a larger narrative, sports and entertainment as diplomacy. Every deal softens perceptions, every tournament attracts investors, and every celebrity appearance bridges a cultural divide once thought unbridgeable. For Mohammed bin Salman, these spectacles are not distractions, they are declarations. The roar of a stadium, the flash of a camera, the precision of a Formula One engine, all serve one purpose: to transform Saudi Arabia from an oil empire into a stage where the world's spotlight never stops shining. Vladimir Putin, power hidden in plain sight. On paper, Vladimir Putin is one of the world's most modest leaders. His official annual salary, barely $150,000, would place him far below the ranks of modern billionaires. Yet behind that humble figure lies a financial empire so vast, so carefully hidden, that analysts estimate his real wealth could exceed $100 billion. It is a fortune built not from innovation or inheritance, but from control of a nation, an economy, and the loyalty of those who profit from both. The center of that empire is said to be an estate that looks more myth than home, the Black Sea Palace, a $1.3 billion compound perched on the cliffs near Gelendzhik. From above, it resembles a modern Versailles, a labyrinth of gardens, marble courtyards, and Italianate terraces sprawling across nearly 190,000 square feet. Beneath it lies an underground ice rink, a theater, a spa with gold-plated mosaics, and a tunnel leading directly to the sea. Drone footage released by dissident investigators revealed frescoes imported from Florence, chandeliers worth more than luxury sedans, and a private vineyard producing exclusive vintage wines. To outsiders, it's opulence. To those within Putin's circle, it's protection, one fortress among many. That fortress is only one piece of a wider puzzle. Putin's real assets are scattered across Europe and the Middle East, shielded by a web of offshore companies registered in Cyprus, the British Virgin Islands, and Switzerland. Through this network, he is believed to control luxury properties in Sochi, Moscow, and St. Petersburg, as well as stakes in state-linked corporations like Gazprom and Rosneft, valued collectively in the tens of billions. His access to these assets is rarely direct. Instead, they sit in the hands of trusted oligarchs, men like Gennady Timchenko and Arkady Rodenberg, whose personal fortunes act as mirrors reflecting his own. Beyond real estate, Putin's fleet of personal and state-blurred transport assets reads like a billionaire's fantasy disguised as policy. Among them are 4 yachts, including the Graceful, a 270-foot vessel worth over $100 million, fitted with a dance floor that transforms into a swimming pool. His private aircraft collection includes a $65 million Ilyushin jet, interiors lined with gold leaf and embroidered leather, and a fleet of armored limousines, custom-built in Russia's secretive Oris facility. Each symbolizes more than comfort. They are statements of permanence, reminders that his reach is as mobile as it is immovable. For Putin, wealth has never been about display. It's about insulation. His opulence exists not in public accounts or Forbes lists, but in networks of loyalty, secrecy, and intimidation. Every palace, jet, or yacht is owned by someone else, yet all answer to him. This invisible architecture of control makes him one of the world's richest men, without ever needing to claim ownership. It's a paradox few can rival, a leader who insists he owns almost nothing while living in a reality worth billions. In that contradiction lies Putin's true currency. Not cash, but the quiet, untraceable power that money buys when no one dares to ask where it came from. Prince Alwaleed bin Talal, the investor prince. Long before the world called him the Arab Warren Buffett, Prince Alwaleed bin Talal was a young royal with something few in his family shared, an appetite for risk. While most Saudi princes stayed anchored to oil, Alwaleed looked outward. At just 31, he invested $590 million into a struggling American bank called Citicorp. The world thought he'd lost his mind. But when Citigroup's stock later surged, that single move multiplied his fortune and cemented his reputation as the Middle East's most daring investor. Today, his net worth stands at over $16 billion, a fortune built not on inheritance, but on calculation. Through his investment vehicle, Kingdom Holding Company, he owns global stakes in Four Seasons Hotels, Disney, Lyft, and formerly Twitter, before it became X. His strategy has always been bold, entering when markets panic, exiting when confidence peaks. In the process, he turned Western finance into a sandbox for Saudi capital, showing that power could be measured not in barrels of oil, but in boardrooms from New York to Tokyo. But Alwaleed's empire doesn't stop at stock portfolios. It floats, flies, and shines. His super yacht, Kingdom 5 KR, worth $300 million, stretches 282 feet, once owned by Hollywood producer Adnan Khashoggi, and even featured in the James Bond film Never Say Never Again. On its teak decks, global executives and politicians have gathered for private negotiations, proof that diplomacy sometimes moves smoother over salt water than across marble floors. Then there's his private Boeing 747, a flying palace valued at over $250 million, customized with gold leaf interiors, a marble dining area, a concert hall and 2 guest suites. At its center sits a golden throne bolted to the floor, a literal seat of power at 40,000 feet. Its luxury turned into mobility, a metaphor for how Alwaleed moves through the world, never bound by borders, always in motion. On land, he maintains multiple palaces across Riyadh and Jeddah, including the Alwaleed Palace, a property rumored to cost over $130 million, featuring 120 rooms, 5 kitchens and a private mosque. Yet despite the extravagance, he is known for unusual discipline. He rises at dawn, eats vegetarian meals and exercises daily, a contrast to the opulence surrounding him. Still, his story is more than wealth, it's evolution. In 2018, after a brief period of house arrest during Saudi Arabia's anti-corruption crackdown, Alwaleed emerged quieter but sharper, restructuring his holdings and refocusing on sustainable industries like green energy and technology. He now funds startups across Dubai, Silicon Valley and London, shaping the next wave of global entrepreneurship. Prince Alwaleed bin Talal stands at a rare intersection, royal by birth, capitalist by choice. His life blurs the line between power and performance, between dynasty and daring. But here's the real question. Can a man who mastered the old world of finance still dominate the new one, built on innovation and AI? Comment what you think. Has Alwaleed's era truly evolved, or is he still the last great prince of traditional wealth? From gold-trimmed super yachts sailing the Mediterranean to AI-controlled Rolls-Royces gliding through Dubai, these heirs aren't just inheriting fortunes, they're inheriting influence. Their journeys blur the line between travel and domination, between luxury and legacy. Together, they represent a generation born into a trillion-dollar reality, where even a vacation becomes an act of power. If you enjoyed discovering how the richest Arab kids travel beyond imagination, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications, because in part 2 we'll step inside their private islands and desert palaces, where travel turns into empire.